We'll start with the prayers. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Guru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Om Shri Mahaganapataye Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. अस्मद्गुरुभ्यो नमः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानामालयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ओम श्री मेधा दक्षिणामूर्ति स्वामिने नमः। ओम सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम. So we are seeing the scheme of the Shastras. And I said yesterday that for the purposes of these talks, I have divided or classified the Shastras into 6 groups. And we saw 2 of them yesterday. The primary source of all our scriptures, all our Shastras, of the entire Sanatana Dharma, if you can call it, is the Veda. And I explained about the Vedas, how they are classified and all that. And then the second layer or the second group that we saw yesterday was the Sutra literature. And I told you these sutras are cryptic statements. And the whole approach of the composer of the sutra is how I can convey or what all I want to convey with the minimum number of words, minimum number of syllables. That is the main aim. Of course, while doing so, he should not lose sight of the all other aspects that what needs to be conveyed has to be conveyed, and there should not be any grammatical error by reducing the number of syllables and all that. Keeping all that in mind, these sutras are written. And especially, I gave the example of one of the best works of the sutras is Panini Sutras, which I spoke about in one earlier class also. And there are about 4,000 sutras which Panini has written, describing the entire Sanskrit grammar. What all you need to do Sanskrit grammar are contained in these 4,000 sutras, including the exceptions for rules. But the problem with these sutras is a person who is not actually studied the Vedas, he will find it very difficult to understand the sutras, what they are written. And these days, we cannot expect everybody to study the full Veda so that you can use the sutras. So whenever we want to understand the sutras, we have to rely upon some commentary or somebody who has explained the sutras. And these days, especially for Panini Sutras and all, you get even English, translations of the sutras. But one difficulty with this English translation is most of them are done by Westerners, and we are not very sure whether they have understood the concept and then translated it, or they have just looked up some dictionary and translated it. Because ultimately, the person who translates needs to know the subject what he is translating. Anyhow, that is a aside note rather. So now these two we saw yesterday, and we were entering the third layer, which is Smriti Granthas, which I told you. right? And these Smriti Granthas generally, there could be small exceptions here and there, are in the form of poems. And it is a metrical literature. It is written in certain meters, the Smriti Granthas, right? And the very word Smriti means remembered wisdom. That is, again, this is a Paurishaya, written by human being. But what they have done is they have actually studied the Vedas. They have studied the Vedas. They have studied the sutras, and then whatever the knowledge that they have gained, they actually, these Smriti Granthas are composed with on the basis of that knowledge. That is why when they recall that knowledge, when they remember what they have actually studied and knowledge gained, what they write, that is why they are called Smriti. Smriti basically means remembrance, right? So this is the Smriti Granthas, and they have actually studied, as I said, everything from Shruti, Sutras, everything, right? So the difference between Sutra and Smriti is, Sutra literature also is taken from the Vedas. But as I said, Sutra literature is a classification of based on topics. Like I said, Grihya Sutras and Srauta Sutras. So many sutras are the Panini Sutra, like for example, the grammar topic. So Panini has written sutras on that. So the Vedas, which has got various topics, subjects discussed in various places. So the Sutrakaras pick up those topics, pick up the what I would say the relevant portions of a particular topic from all the places, and then they compose the sutras. So this is the Sutra literature, whereas the Smriti Granthas goes one step further. I said Sutra is cryptic, Smriti Grantha is more elaborate as compared to the Sutras. So if you read the Smriti Granthas, and if you have a good knowledge of Sanskrit, by and large, you will be able to understand what is it. By and large, I mean, literal meaning at least you will get. You may not get the implied meaning of what is being said, but literal meaning you can make out from Smriti Granthas. They are elaboration of what is there in the Sutra. Again, it goes topic wise, the Smriti Granthas. There is a Manu Smriti, you have, Yagyavalkya Smriti. In fact, the biggest and the most popular Smriti Grantha is Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, which has been composed by Vedavyasa as a part of the Mahabharata epic, contains messages which are mostly taken from Upanishads, right? It is Katha Upanishad or Mandukya Upanishad, you can say they have taken sometimes from Chandogya Upanishad. Different Upanishads, they have taken the mantras, and if you have studied the Upanishad and then study the Bhagavad Gita, many times you will be able to identify this particular sloka of Bhagavad Gita has been taken from this particular Upanishad. You will be able to identify if you have studied the Upanishads also. Just to give you an example, when we think of Bhagavad Gita, the imagery which comes to our mind is Arjuna in the battlefield on a chariot. Krishna is the charioteer. There are horses which are bound, and that is the scene which comes in our mind, right? This imagery of a chariot and a Jivatma and Paramatma is exactly lifted from Katha Upanishad. In Katha Upanishad, this is how the Upanishad explains, we have to understand about our sense organs are the horses, and Paramatma is the one who is actually in control of those sense organs. And then the Jivatma is Arjuna, who is a totally confused person. He has got a lot of ideas, but he doesn't know how to go about it. And the Ratha Kalpana, which is called Ratha Kalpana in Kathopanishad, how the entire samsara is represented by that. So this is, I'm just giving you a small example, how even the imagery of the Bhagavad Gita has been taken straight away from Kathopanishad, Ratha Kalpana. So there are a lot of other mantras and all in 15th chapter, especially absolutely from Kathopanishad. So many similarities are there. Sometimes the words are little different way it is expressed, but the essence is the same, and sometimes the words are also same as it is there in the Upanishads. So easily we can correlate that. So this is the Smriti Granthas, and they are all very nicely, beautifully arranged verses. They are in the form of slokas, what we call. And the Smriti Granthas actually go into topics like cosmology, how this creation arose, and everything, whatever is not even covered by the sutras, Sutra Granthas, the Smriti Granthas cover all that. Right? And there's a lot of Smritis are there, very interesting. Of course, we will not have time to study all the Smritis rather. But then they also define the goals of life, the duties of a citizen, the duties of a student, the duties of a householder, duties of a king, a ruler. All these things are all very beautifully captured in the Smriti Granthas, including duties of males, duties of females, duties of a husband, duties of a wife. So many, all these things are all there in the Smriti Granthas. So whereas the Sutra literature is cryptic and it is vague, whereas in Smriti, they have got a wider elbow room to explain. So it's more verbose. We can understand they are in form of proper sentences in Sanskrit. So with all nouns, verbs, everything in place. So we can understand the Smriti Granthas very much more easier. I won't say very easily. You have to have knowledge of Sanskrit. But then even Smriti Granthas have been actually commented upon by a lot of commentators. Later Acharyas have commented, they have explained the Smriti Granthas. Bhagavad Gita itself has been commented by Adi Shankaracharya, very vast commentary. Ramanujacharya has commented on Bhagavad Gita. So many people have, there are so many others. Big Acharyas, very leading Acharyas have commented on Bhagavad Gita. So this is the Smriti Granthas. And one beauty of our entire literature, we must remember, is that, as I told you, they are all memorized, right? There was no written books or anything till recently in comparison to the time frame we are talking about. So there was nothing written. So these had to be memorized. Now, how can you memorize it? There has got to be some memorizing tools for that, right? And the memorizing tools are, so far as Vedas are concerned, the swaras which are there in the Veda mantras. If you learn the Veda mantras with the swaras, then it is easy to memorize that. So the swaras are provided in the Veda mantras for the purpose of memorizing the Veda mantras. Smriti, the Sutra Granthas, I said, they are all very small, pithy, cryptic statements. And, we can memorize that also, because we normally have this mnemonics and all that, kind of a thing, how to remember things. So small statements, it is not very difficult. If you practice it, you can memorize. There are people I have come across who have actually memorized the entire 4,000 Panini Sutras, and they will actually say like this, flow like water, they will flow. Starting from the first sutra to the last sutra, they will say. They have memorized it rather, because it's all cryptic statements. Then when you come to Smriti Granthas, they are all poetic. So poem also we can easily, memorize. Because in school and all, that is why we have all this, poetry competition and all that. Children are encouraged to memorize the poems and then recite it in a competition and all. So if you look at this kind of these literature, they are all, you know, composed with the idea that they should be easily memorizable, if I can use that word. So this is the Smriti Granthas also. One can memorize Bhagavad Gita, and all small children, they memorize Bhagavad Gita fully, and you know, they chant like anything. In fact, Chinmaya group, they actually hold you know, Bhagavad Gita competition and all that. Many of you may know that. And the children, you know, they participate in the competition. And once they have memorized one chapter, that will remain in their memory permanently rather. So like that, over a period of time, if they memorize each chapter, then all the 18 chapters easily can be memorized. All because it is the poetic form, right? So that is one more feature of these scriptures. We must remember that they are in such a form, even though the forms are different, but all these forms are memorizable. We can commit it to memory, right? But I mean, if you just take English literature, you say some book is there, some novel. Can you memorize that novel? Maybe one paragraph, two paragraphs, you may be able to memorize with great effort. But just imagine memorize 20,000 odd mantras of the Vedas. Then all these Smriti Granthas, you know, which are running into so many Smritis are there. To memorize all of them, you have to have some methodology, some tool, and that is inbuilt in these texts, right? And this is why, you know, we have to understand the value of our tradition. It's not, it is totally user friendly, as you know, in modern language you can call. It's totally user friendly. Otherwise, can you imagine these priests and all sitting and for hours together, they go on chanting the Veda mantra? How do they do it? They don't refer to any book or anything. So this is all inbuilt, and that is why we should appreciate, you know, the people who have done all these things, how they have thought about all these aspects, you know, that it should be memorizable, it should be, one should be able to recall from that memory and then repeat it, teach it to others in the same manner as that person has learned. All those things have been taken care of in this literature, right? So that is, if you want to compare, they are like CDs, isn't it, these days? The amount of data that you can put in a CD is enormous as compared to earlier times and all. Today, actually the capacity of this media is increased. Today we have come with this, what, the pen drive and all, 4 GB, 8 GB and all that kind of stuff. So they're all like these people who chant, their brain is like the CD, you know, they can go on committing to memory more and more and more and more. The entire wiring inside the brain is taken care of in that particular manner. Okay. So this is what is the Smriti Granthas, and they also come under, as I said, Paurusheya Shastra. They are all human effort, but the content is from the Vedas. The effort is human, composition is human, but the content is divine because it is given by the Lord himself, right? Whereas the Vedas, both the content and the composition is divine. That is the only difference in all these things, right? Then we go to the fourth layer. And the fourth layer is known as Puranas. We have all know Puranas are there. We have heard of them. Bhagavata Purana is the most popular Purana we have come across. And again, they are literature based upon the Vedic messages only. The messages contain teachings contained in the Vedas. And what the Puranas do is they further dilute the message of the Vedas and put those messages with some beautiful stories and entertaining stories and all that, and then give it out to the world. And these are also, these Puranas, actually most of the Puranas are written, to my mind, all the Puranas by Veda Vyasa. At least 18 Puranas we know, and it is said that there are 18 more Puranas which he wrote. But Veda Vyasa is the author of the Puranas. So, what if you just look at Veda Vyasa as a personality? How many of us have been actually taught in our schools and in our colleges, even at our home, what is this personality called Veda Vyasa? He has completely learned the Vedas and then he classified the Vedas, right? You can't do classification unless you know exactly what you are doing. And then he wrote based upon his understanding of what the final message or the, I would say, the inner message of the entire Vedic literature. He wrote Brahma Sutra. And Brahma Sutra establishes that Advaita Vedanta is the message of the entire Vedas. The entire Vedas take a human being in the spiritual journey from Karma Kanda, to Karma Yoga, from Karma Yoga to Upasana Yoga, from Upasana Yoga to Jnana Yoga, to the Upanishads. So eventually culmination of this entire Vedic knowledge is the realization or understanding or gaining of knowledge, Aham Brahmasmi or Tattvamasi. So this idea, Veda Vyasa has converted in sutra form in Brahma Sutras. Then he also wrote the Puranas. So he knew what I have told in the Brahma Sutras will not be understood by many people, especially in the Kali Yuga, which is going to come, because he was towards the end of the Dwapara Yuga. So Kali Yuga, people will have low intellect. So for their benefit, he composed these Puranas. The content or the message is the same that is there in the Vedas and Sutras and Smriti Granthas for the. In fact, Smriti Grantha, Bhagavad Gita, he composed. I left that out. So Vedas he classified, Sutra, Brahma Sutra he composed, Bhagavad Gita he composed, Smriti Grantha, and then Puranas he has composed. Can you imagine such a great personality? And then finally when we come to Itihasa, Mahabharata also he wrote. So Veda Vyasas, I would say the imprint of Veda Vyasa is there throughout our literature, throughout our Shastra. And we hardly know who that Veda Vyasa was. Right? This is why I said in the first lecture, we Indians, we need to become Hindus. We need to understand our culture, our roots. And these are all examples, that day I gave the example of Narada. Veda Vyasa is another great example. We know nothing about it. But when you think of it, this is the achievement of a single individual. Right? So anyhow, we will go to the Puranas. So if, let us say, in the Sutra literature or in the Smriti Granthas, if the message of the Vedas have been, let us say, expanded in a 1:10 ratio, right? When you come to Puranas, the ratio is 1:100, the dilution ratio, right? 1:100. So the Puranas actually, deal with the stories and things like that and all. But in between, the message of the Vedas is put in the Puranas. But unfortunately, today I have observed what is happening is, like especially Bhagavata Purana, I know people who have attended something like 25 Bhagavata Purana sessions. They find it very enjoying, listening to Krishna's stories and all his leelas and things like that and all. But after listening for 25 times also, they do not get what is the message of that Bhagavata. For them, they think they are spiritual and religious because they are listening to Bhagavata Purana. In my view, all that they are doing is they are replacing a TV serial with Bhagavata Purana. They are going there only for the purpose of entertaining themselves, not to learn anything. This is not a criticism, but this is the reality of the world, right? If you ask them what is the messages that you got from Bhagavata Purana, none of them will be able to tell you, or at least most of them will not be able to tell you. They will tell you all stories about how Krishna stole the, the butter and things like that and all. Very vividly they will tell, but the message they will not be able to grasp. And the tragedy or irony is, I have actually listened to one or two, people who have given these talks. They don't, mix up. They will convey the message. They say this is the message of this Bhagavata Purana. This Advaita Vedanta is what is being conveyed here. But people, they are, when they are listening, they are in a totally different mood, entertainment mood. So let's come to Puranas. The word Purana itself is got a derivation. The derivation is Pura api navaha. That is Purana. Purana. Pura means ancient, old. Navaha means new, right? So it is ancient and also new. What does it mean? It means that the contents of these Puranas, even though they are ancient, they were written something like 5,000 years ago or whatever it is, they remain very, very relevant even in this 21st century. That is why it is called Purana. Pura api navaha, right? And these Purana literature also, most of them are in the form of poetic literature. And they also codify, classify, and magnify based on topics, rearrange the topics and all that. So there are so many, Skanda Purana is there, Shiva Purana, and so many are there. But Bhagavata Purana, as I said, is the most popular Purana these days, right? And what happens is the Puranas actually go one step further. Wherever there is some confusion or some vagueness in any of the previous texts, the Puranas actually magnify and clarify those points also. These Puranas, they address those issues also. And for example, I'll tell you, there is one value they pick up from the Vedas. And that particular value is highlighted in the entire Purana. And to give you an example, Harishchandra Purana, there is a Purana called Harishchandra Purana, right? And it's a very elaborate Purana. A lot of the full story of Harishchandra is written. Very, very elaborately it is written. But what is the essence of that entire Purana? Only two words from the Veda. Satyam Vada. That's it. So these two words from the Veda, Satyam Vada, has been picked up. And then the whole Purana with a lot of stories and things like that and all has been presented. And it is demonstrated that under any circumstances, any adverse circumstances that you may face in life, you must not compromise on the value of speaking the truth. That is the simple message of that Harishchandra Purana. But you can just imagine, thousands of verses are written on just this idea of containing two words. So that's why, these Puranas also are very, very valuable. And especially in today's time when people actually do not have that much of a Sanskrit language, knowledge of the Sanskrit language, and also do not have the time to read all these Vedas and things like that and all. These Puranas are very helpful. And in fact, many of the slokas and the stotrams that we chant, they are all from Puranas. So they have helped that way also, giving a lot of stotras and verses or slokas to the world. And in Kali Yuga, we can chant all those things, and then the source is the Puranas. From that we can do that. Okay. So similarly, another example comes to my mind, Pitrudevo Bhava. This is a Vedic statement. Whole Ramayana, when you come to Itihasa, you will see Pitrudevo Bhava. Whole Ramayana is that only. Father is my God. That's it. I will only listen to, I will not break my father's words. So, I mean, these are examples rather. We can always refer to. You can also recall many examples like this, right? So this is the fourth layer of literature, which is the Puranas, right? So we have seen Vedas, then Sutra literature, then third was Smriti Granthas, and the fourth we have now seen is the Puranas, right? The next layer of this literature is what we call Itihasa. Now, Itihasa literally means history-based literature, right? So the contents of Itihasa is supposed to be based on what really happened. And that is why the word Itihasa means, Iti means thus, Ha means definitely, undoubtedly, Asa means occurred, it happened, it took place. That is the meaning of the word Itihasa. So thus, undoubtedly, it took place. So when you say Ramayana, Itihasa, Ramayana as narrated by Valmiki, undoubtedly took place. Mahabharata as narrated by Vedavyasa Rishi, undoubtedly happened. So this is the how Itihasa needs to be understood. But the question now will be, if that is the case, then should be accurate, because history should be accurate, isn't it? You cannot have a history with lot of masala added in that, right? So what we have to understand is, these are based on historical facts, but the entire narration is laced with certain imaginative content in order to make it more interesting, more involved, so that people will have an interest in reading it. And in the process, the Vedic messages are conveyed. And these itihasas are not in verse form, they are in prose form. Ramayana, Mahabharata and all. For Mahabharata, of course, still it is in prose form. Ramayana is also in prose form only. Sorry, I'm mistaken. They are in prose form only. But they are very elaborate. Like, for example, Ramayana has got 24,000 slokas. Right? And the word Ramayana means itself, you have to understand, means the life of Rama. Ayanam here, we have to take the meaning as the life, the journey of Rama. Ramayana means the journey of the life of Rama. Right? So this is the way of life of Rama. And Rama is presented as a model. Model for the Vedic way of living. Model for following the Vedic the values which are enshrined in the Vedas. So that is what it is. It's actually, the derivation is Ramasya Ayanam Margaha Jivita Riti Iti. So those who understand a little bit Sanskrit will know. In simple English, it says that it is the way of life of Lord Rama. That is what is the meaning of the word Ramayana, right? And that is also one more aspect. See, for people to follow, you require a model, a strong personality. And we have seen in all these advertisements and all that they choose all these big film actors and all. Why do they do that? Because these models have got a impact on the mind of the people. So if the model says do this, you will do it. So all this marketing business is not today's development. Even Vedavyasa or Valmiki Ramayana in Treta Yuga probably thought of this, that I must make Rama a character, a model for people to follow. right? So that is something more we have to understand and interpret. So Rama is a model. Similarly, Mahabharata is the story of the Bharata Vamsha, the Rajas and all that who came in that entire Bharata Vamsha, right? And Maha means what? Maha means vast, a vast literature dealing with the Bharat stories of the kings of the Bharata Varsha. That is the meaning of the word Mahabharata. So through these stories, the Vedic teachings are they are being imparted to the world. So even though, as I was saying, we must remember that they are based on history, but it should not be taken as pure history. Because presenting history is not the primary purpose of this literature or these granthas, right? The primary purpose of all these itihasas and these granthas are to convey the message, the Vedic message for right living. The living as per the Vedic style, the living which every Sanatana Dharmi should abide by. That is the message of this. So history is only a context in which these messages are being conveyed. For example, it said that Ravana has got 10 heads, right? Now you start, I mean, a person who doesn't understand what is being implied here will say, how can one have 10 heads? That means that if he has got 10 heads, one head will be in the middle and there will be 4 heads on one side and 5 heads on another side. He can't walk properly. He will always be tilting to one side and all that. These kind of ignoramus questions can always come when actually people read all this. But if you understand the philosophical idea behind it, each of the heads, they represent one internal enemy of us. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, then Raga, Dvesha, all those internal enemies which are there, they are all being represented by these 10 heads. And then when Ravana is killed, means what? You have won over your internal enemies and you have become a Sattvic Purusha. And which is Ramachandra Prabhu. Ramachandra's nature is Sattvika nature. So once the Sattvika nature you develop and kill all these Ravanas inside you, you become you have achieved your life's goal. All the 4 Purusharthas you have achieved. That is the message. But this message, in order to understand, you must have a background of the entire thing, isn't it? If you just look at it as Ravana has got 10 heads and all that, then you will only make fun of it. And even children, when you teach them also, they will get confused. How can one have a 10 heads and all? Why I am trying to tell you is that these kind of, some imaginations are built into these historical stories so that they become more appealing. One example I can tell you is this, I think many of you must have seen this movie Titanic, right? Now, if you see the movie, Titanic, that historical, submerging of this Titanic, that happened, everybody knows. But can you say that the entire movie is representative of what exactly happened on that Titanic ship? You cannot say. There are a lot of imaginative things that the producer, the writer, director have put into that masala they have put into the movie. But the movie is very appealing, and then at least you get the message that this is how the very first ship, which, the Titanic ship that sank in the sea and all that. So that is the idea, and the other things are all embellishments, or you can say ornamentation. So similarly, we have to understand this Ramayana, Mahabharata stories also. Right? And sometimes fictitious characters are introduced and all symbolic language is used. So as I said, so many things we have to understand. So when you study Ramayana, Mahabharata, you must keep all this in mind, that you must look for what is the message being given here. You must not get lost in the story part of it and then enjoy Like, they in North India and all, they do Ram Leela and all that. So they'll all enjoy, oh, Ravan has now been burnt, matter over. Now he'll go and have a nice dinner. That should not be the thing. What is the story being, what is the message being conveyed here? That is what we must focus on whenever we are reading any our Shastric literature. Okay. So this is the fifth layer known as Itihasas. Then comes the sixth layer, which is called the Bhashya literature. Now this Bhashya literature is not very popular, but any person who is teaching the other five literatures, especially I should say the Puranas also, including Puranas, they explain everything based upon these bhashyams only. Because with people, it's not very easy to read the Veda mantras, understand what is being said in the Veda mantras. You can understand provided you are very familiar with the Sutra literature. As I said, there are two main granthas, which is Jaivani Sutras for the Purva Mimamsa and the Brahma Sutra for the Uttara Mimamsa. If you can understand those sutras very well, very good. But that also is not possible for people of our intellectual capacity. So what you do, all these things people have written commentaries. As I told you in the Panini Sutra exam, they have written detailed commentaries. Those commentaries are also in Sanskrit only. In fact, sometimes I felt that the commentaries are more difficult to understand than the original text itself. Because these people are all Sanskrit scholars who are written. And then they actually add not only the interpretation, but why their interpretation is correct, they add a lot of material for that in order to support or to establish their interpretation. So this sutra, this Bhashya literature, it's again a very vast literature. A lot of people have written bhashyams on different, different granthas, different texts rather. So again, this is a man-made literature. It is a Paurushaya granthas rather. And not only that, like what I said yesterday, these bhashyams are the main commentary which people like Shankaracharya or Ramanujacharya and all, they have written on the original texts. In order to understand even what Adi Shankara has written, other people have explained what Adi Shankara is meaning by writing this. Because Adi Shankara, given his capability and capacity and all, he also uses certain cryptic and symbolic, expressions when he has written the Bhashya. So when you come across that, you will be confused. What is he want to say? So for that, then go to the sub-commentary of the commentary. So like that, there are sub-commentaries, sub-commentaries, so much like that. So Vartika is there, Vrittis are there, Tika, Tippani, and this work keeps on going. Because in the world of, scholars, whenever somebody writes something, there will be three people who will challenge it. You say, what you are saying is wrong. Either they will say your language is wrong, or the content is wrong, or your references you are making is wrong. So the person who writes these commentaries has to be very careful that, he must be able to establish the veracity and the correctness of what he is writing. So then what happens is, sometimes you will write something and you will pass away. So the questions will remain hanging. So somebody will come and pick up that particular commentary and then they will explain, this is how you must understand. So that is how these Tippanis, Tikas and all that, they develop. When you go into a very serious Vedanta study of Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads and all, these Tikas, Tippanis and the sub-commentaries and all, they are very helpful understanding the main Bhashyam itself. What to talk of understanding the original mantras. Okay. So, these 6 layers, starting from the Vedas, that is Shruti, then Sutra literature, Then third is Smriti Granthas. Fourth we saw is Puranas. Five we saw was Itihasas. And the sixth is this Bhashya literature. This entire body of literature is what is called in a single word as Shastra. And mind you, I have been talking only from the standpoint of Vedanta. Right? I have not gone into the other areas of the Vedas, especially Karma Kanda and all that, and what kind of commentaries are there. In fact, there are detailed commentaries for that also. There are also Bhashyam only. But here, we learn the Bhashyam more because we have to understand, interpret the message of the Upanishads and explain it to people. So that is why the focus is on Vedanta. But one can say that what these six categories or classic groups of literature is common to our entire Shastram, which we have. And this is the length and breadth and vastness of our Shastra. And that is why when Swami Chinmayananda said that we don't have a single book, but we have a library. It's not a small library. In fact, if you have the hard copies of all the texts which are available, it will probably be the largest library in the world. And I can tell you there is no other religion which can boast of such a vast literature. And the vastness is because it is addressing the human being right from the childhood stage to the most mature stage of the human intellect. So at every stage, you are, as even your knowledge is increasing, your understanding is increasing, you go to the next stage. It's like you start with KG, then go into the first standard, and then go into the primary to secondary school, and then high school, then undergraduation, post-graduation, and then you go to PhD, doctoral, postdoctoral, all those kind of things. We have that system. Similarly, these texts are all meant for you to follow throughout your life, so that in the end, you are able to reach that postdoctoral stage where you are studying the Upanishads, and then you are getting that knowledge of the Upanishads, Aham Brahmasmi knowledge, and you abide in that knowledge, and then what is there is only happiness and happiness and happiness. Nothing will affect you in the world. You would have moved from what to so what. And that is the final goal which the entire Vedanta is trying to teach us. So our duty is, even though we may not be able to follow all these things, very few people will get that opportunity and also will have that inclination. To the best extent possible, we can develop our own intellect, and we can keep on studying the Shastras, understanding the Shastras, and then we can go from one stage to another stage, right? So as I said, this is how we can put this entire knowledge of the Shastras to use. We have only seen what is the Shastra looks like. We have not seen what is the content of the Shastras, right? So the underlying message of this is we must keep on progressing in our life. And then when we become a brahmachari, we will learn. We were supposed to learn. Olden days, Vedic period, they were saying going to Gurukula and all that. Today there is no Gurukula, nothing. Of course, there are Patashalas. Some people still go there. They learn all these things. And then when you graduate, after going through 12 years or whatever number of years in the Gurukula, learning all the Shastras, way of life, because in the Gurukula not only mantras are taught, all values, everything is taught. Then you are ready for the next stage to enter the Grihastha Ashrama. And Grihastha Ashrama, you have the duties towards your family, the duties towards your society, duties towards your rulers, all those things are all there in the part of the Grihastha. If you see, of course, the next two lectures will be on the Ashrama Dharma only. I will be talking about Varna Dharma and Ashrama Dharma. Having said, but I'll just mention, it is only in the Grihastha our Shastras permit a person to earn money. The Brahmachari, the Sannyasi, the Vanaprasthi, and the Sannyasi, all these three are supposed to live on the food and all the infrastructure provided by the Grihastha ashram, by the Grihastha. All others are not supposed to earn anything. They are supposed to live on Bhiksha. So the responsibility of the Grihastha ashrama is to take care of all the three other ashrams, all these people, the Brahmachari, the Vanaprastha and the Sannyasi, right? So all those things are taught in the Gurukula. So then they become the Grihastha ashrama. They have children and earn a lot of money and all that, so that you must have enough to provide for others also. And then there are a lot of rules for the Grihasthas like Atiti, Devo, Bhava. All those things are all taught in the Shastras. So you follow all that, and when your children have grown up beyond a particular age, when they have become adults and they are able to stand on their own feet, not literally, I mean, means they are able to fend for themselves, you withdraw yourself and then go to the Vanaprastha. All these details we will see later in the next classes. So the message is, whenever we are reading or studying the Mahabharata, Ramayana, or even the Puranas and all that, or even Bhagavad Gita for that matter, of course Bhagavad Gita doesn't have so much of that, but Puranas and Ramayana, Mahabharata, we must not get lost in the stories. It's very easy to get lost in the stories, but we must focus on the message which is being conveyed through these stories. That is the crux of the whole thing, right? So now we have about 5-7 minutes. One of the important examples which I wanted to just share with you is, I don't know how many of you have gone to Shabarimala, right? You all know what is the the trek to Shabarimala means. Right? It's very, very difficult path. You go, you walk through so many mountains and very difficult, roads strewn with small pebbles and thorns and things like that and all. But then the devotion is so much that people just barefoot, they just climb the mountains, the Shabarimala. Even after you reach the Shabarimala, you have to again climb 18 steps and then reach the Sanctum Sanctorum. And when you go to the Sanctum Sanctorum, you know what is written there? Tattvamasi. Such a beautiful, in fact, when I went to Shabarimala, I got only once. That too about 4 or 5 years ago. Very difficult for a person of my age, but still it was God's grace I was able to make it. After reaching there, I saw this Tattvamasi. I said, my God, this Tattvamasi is what I am learning in my Upanishad class. For learning this, do I have to climb all this and take all the trouble? But that is not the message. The message is, the Shabarimala trip actually symbolizes our entire life journey. And that life journey should end in understanding this, that what you are come in search of, me, the Lord, is you. You are the Lord. There is no need for all these things that you have done if you understand, realize and abide by in that knowledge that you are the Lord. Aham Brahmasmi, Tat Tvamasi. That was the message in Shabarimala. So this is, I just wanted to share this, this information, because many of you might not know this, or those who have gone to Shabarimala will know. So with that, this particular topic is over. Now I would like to just show you one small chart. Let me see whether I can. Where is that chart? Yes. If you can see this chart, it just provides an overview of the religious systems which have actually come or developed out of all these shastras that we talked about. Okay, because as I told you yesterday, these very same shastras are interpreted differently by different people. And based upon their own interpretation, religious systems have developed. So, just to take you very quickly, basically our religious systems are divided into two basic groups. One is the orthodox, which is called Astika, or we can call it Vedic system. The other is unorthodox, which is called Nastika or non-Vedic system. These people don't follow the Vedas. And in the orthodox group, there are 5 groups called Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaiseshika, and Mimamsa. So these are the orthodox group people who are Mimamsakaras and all that. They work only on those particular, that is their belief. On the non-Vedic side, the Nastika side, we have got Charvakas. I talked about them yesterday. Their belief is they don't believe in Vedas and karmas and another life and all. For them, life means human's life is from date of birth to date of death. So they say, forget about all these Vedas, Shastra, enjoy your life. Ash karo, I mean, sorry, Hindi came in. They say, just enjoy your life and make the most, make merry when the sun shines, as they say. So that is their philosophy. Because they feel nothing survives after death. Then Jainism and Buddhism also, they don't follow the Vedas. They have got their own philosophy. Even though one can argue that many aspects of their philosophy is all taken from Vedas only, but they don't take Vedas as a pramana, as a means of knowledge. But these 5 schools are there. Now in the Mimamsa school, we have got the, as I told, Purva Mimamsa and Uttara Mimamsa. So we are focusing on Uttara Mimamsa now, and Uttara Mimamsa has got 6 groups: Advaita, Visishta Advaita, Dvaita, Dvaita Dvaita, which is Veda Veda, which is what being followed by the ISKCON people. They follow this. Then there is Shuddha Dvaita, that is very now almost extinct rather, Shuddha Dvaita. And Achintya Bheda Bheda. No, actually I'm wrong. The Achintya Bheda Bheda is what the ISKCON people follow. So Dvaita, Bheda Bheda is another philosophy. Again, those people are not very popular. So amongst all these groups, just to give you a very, very bird's eye view, what we are focusing here is on this group, this Advaita. That is what we are focusing on. And it is this Advaita philosophy which gives you this knowledge of Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, Prajnanam Brahma. All the Mahavakyas which are there in the Vedas and Upanishads, they can be understood. They can be understood as meaningful only if you understand what is Advaita, is the non-dual philosophy. Whether you take Bhagavad Gita or Upanishads and all that, including Ramayana, there is one Ramayana called Adhyatmika Ramayana, which Valmiki has written. There he portrays Rama as the non-dual Brahman. So the whole Shastra literature, eventually the one message is that if you realize, I've been telling you people, know yourself, that self-knowledge is nothing but the knowledge of Aham Brahmasmi or Tattvamasi. That is what the entire Vedantic teaching or Advaita Vedanta teaching is all about. Okay, now we will stop. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you all. I will now open the question.
Thank you, Ji.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ji.
Questions are there? Namaste, kindly.
Thank you, Guruji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Just like the Itihasa, or were they written to convey the inner messages? As I told you, Puranas actually we don't know whether they happened or not, because most of the Puranas are talking about Shiva, Parvati, or Vishnu, Vaikuntha, and all those kind of things. But from a spiritual point of view, I think, and that is the Upadesha I have also got. Don't focus on the format. Let the format be anything. It doesn't matter. Because if you, for example, I will tell you, a particular novel somebody writes. Then somebody picks up that novel and makes it into a drama, a play, stage drama. Then somebody picks up and makes that into a cinema, a film. Now the same story is there in the book form, in the drama form, and also in a cinema or a film form. Now, when we are looking at it, maybe when we are seeing a film, our orientation, our enjoyment is different, focus is little different. There will be more masala in the film as compared to a drama, because in drama stage there are restrictions. You cannot bring elephant and all on the stage, whereas in the film you can do all that. And book medium is only a reading medium. You cannot provide any visual effects in the book medium. So even though the three different media is there, conveying the same story, conveying the same idea, what we should focus is not worry whether they were real or not. See what is the message being conveyed. That is what we must focus on. Just to add one small example, there is one Purana where there is a conversation between Shiva and Parvati. Now Parvati is saying that, asking Shiva that you are supposed to be the Lord, but if you want, you can provide everything for all these human beings. So if there's a poor man, you can give him a lot of money and then he will become rich. No, why don't you do that? You are such a compassionate person. So Shiva says, no, that is not possible, because everybody will have to undergo their own karma effect. They have to undergo the fruits of their karma, or they have to experience the fruits of their karma. So if somebody is poor, it is because of his past karma that he is in this economic situation. But Parvati says, no, you are just making up all these stories. If you want, you can do anything that you want. Which we have seen in our own houses also, this kind of conversations. So what Shiva says, okay, now you watch what is going to happen. Now Shiva says, I will now shower lot of gold coins on this person. And you see, watch what happens. So when Shiva is about to shower these gold coins, this person who is walking in a jungle rather, he thinks, see, it is so difficult for me to walk in this jungle, right? There's no proper path. Just imagine how blind people who don't have eyes, how much difficulty they will be facing. So let me try to understand empathize their difficulty. So what he does, he closes his eyes and starts walking. And when he closes his eyes and starts walking is when Shiva is showering all the gold coins. So he passes through the gold coins, and when he opens his eyes, the gold coins are behind. So he continues to remain a poor person. So Shiva is telling Parvati, you see, I gave him gold coins, but his karma prevented him from taking that gold coins or even seeing that gold coins. His karma forced him to close his eyes. Now this is a story I have told you in maybe 5-7 minutes. What is the message? Message is, your life is as per your karma. What you have done in the past, you will reap the benefits or sufferings of whatever you have done in the past, not necessarily in this birth, but in your past. This is the message we have to take in the story. And we should not ask whether such a thing happened. Can Shiva ever gold coin? Why he doesn't do? I will not close my eyes. So all those things we must not get in. Okay. I hope I answered your question. Any other question?
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you. Okay, then we will meet the next Saturday. Okay. Hari Om.
Hari Om Ji.
Namaste.
Hari Om.
Thank you so much.